Welcome to Spore War After the War, our weekly analysis and retrospective of the Spore War Actual Play series as aired here on Dungeon Scrawlers. Each week we take a look back at the episode that we just completed, celebrate what we enjoyed, and ask questions of what we want to know more about, and pull back the curtain a little bit and give the audience a bit of a taste of what creating and running an actual play looks and sounds like, and some of the challenges and joy that we get from doing this. My name is Jason Collins. I'm a freelance comic book writer, tabletop role-playing game designer, actual play producer, streamer, and I'm very pleased to be producing and editing this Spore War series, the Pathfinder 2nd Edition actual play that we're running on Dungeon Scrawlers. And with that, I am proud to introduce the Gamerunner for Spore War, Seneschal.
Thank you, Jason. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you. So we just completed Prelude 2, Part 2. We call it Prelude 2 because we are doing 3 preludes leading up to the start of the Spore War Actual Play, or Spore War Adventure Path series, which is a starting level 11 adventure path that goes all the way to level 20 if you run the whole thing as is. And while we are very excited to start that adventure path and start it as an actual play, we recognize that with a new group of players and with you as a game runner coming to Dungeon Scrawlers for the first time, that we thought some preludes, you definitely thought some preludes were in order, and you were validated with that because of the experience of everybody catching up on Pathfinder 2nd Edition Core, the new remastered version of the 2nd Edition rules that we are playing with, and giving these preludes as a chance to have the players learn about the characters, learn about the system. And what I love just as much is it's given a much warmer and broader and deeper introduction into the nation of Kionin, into the city of Greengold, where at least the first part of the Adventure Path series takes place, and allowed the players and the characters to establish some roots, and give the audience a bit more of a buy-in as well. Hopefully that they recognize the value these characters have with their relationships and things that are happening, rather than just starting in guns a-blazing at level 11 and just off and running, right? Without a lot of setup to get us there. I think this setup is proving to be invaluable. I think tonight's prelude to wrap up was a big reminder of that.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, launching right into the level 11 AP materials would have been really intimidating. I think it would have been for the players as well. And as you say, I think there were lots of advantages to doing it this way. I'm really happy with the choice.
We're now 4 episodes in terms of the 2 preludes now that we've done so far. Four episodes with 2 preludes. I think the players now have much deeper appreciation for their characters, a much better rapport with each other as players, and a much better buy-in for the setting around them and the world around them that they are now developing relationships in and developing an attachment to, so that when something called Spore War actually starts, there's a little bit of something at risk for them as well. And this episode especially was really helpful because it really got into something that we've only just dabbled with so far, and we've been warning the players in a good way, in a positive way, to say, you want to make sure you're prepared for this, and getting to level up through these preludes was part of that preparation. But we got to have a really good knockdown, drag out tactical encounter this episode.
Yeah, it was really my a test of my abilities as much as anything else that I wanted to do, with some complicated mechanics from the creatures and opponents, but also something where the players could have been at serious risk. The fatality, neither side really wanted to engage in a lot of fatalities because of where they are and what the consequences would be. So it was a safe space to explore that. But after we stopped the recording and before we got into the after the war session we're doing now, I did warn the players, which I don't normally do, about the lethality of the adventure path. I'm sure you're going to ask me about that, but I'd like to talk about it right off the bat, if that's all right.
Sure. I,
Just in terms, sorry, go ahead.
I would all yeah. I was gonna ask a little bit about the before we jumped into that bigger
Oh, sure,
conversation.
sure.
The only thing I wanted to ask about, because we just completed the episode, and you, hopefully the audience, if they watched Prelude 2 Part 2 and then joined us for After the War here,
Yeah.
was that there was a really great mechanic that you introduced in this tactical session that is a Pathfinder 2e specific mechanic, and that's the mob rule. And I wanted if you could just talk a little bit about the mob rule, because I had forgotten about that, and it was really cool to see it in terms of, for me, the efficiency of how it allowed you to still have a full robust combat, but not have to break it down to individual initiatives and individual combat turns for individual combatants when you want to have a group of people fighting against your player characters.
Yeah. The NPC core is where I pulled the bandit um, gang from. And that was I just got the NPC core in the in physical edition as well as the PDF, and looking through it, I'm like, I need some bandits. I just need something, and I was reminded by flipping through there of the mob rule just by finding this, and I'm like, this is fantastic, right? As you say, it simplifies a large scale combat in a way that is keeps the speed and pace up, but also gives the feeling of danger and of significance of just the numbers of people involved.
Yeah.
And I added a little bit of chaos in the sense that I did not. It actually says it deals damage to everyone within 5 feet. And I'm like, this is a maelstrom of non-trained soldiers just fighting. Yeah, they're going to affect each other. That for me was great. I really enjoyed the mob, and I'll use it again for sure.
Yeah, I like that, and like I said, I liked it both just as a creative choice, but I liked it as a mechanical choice as well, because it kept the combat pretty swift, in the sense that when we talked about that
Yeah.
this week with the players in the lead up to this session, because they knew they were going into something that would potentially have a tactical encounter, but they didn't know the scale or the reasons why. But I liked the fact that it allowed for a robust combat scene, but kept it swift, which is just great for the home table, and especially great for actual play needs when you want to be conscious of time. We have a rough deadline that we set each week for our sessions, and in terms of time, when we want to end the time by, based on our players' time zones and other factors that way. But also just in terms of combat fatigue, when you're as a player, where you're going through round after round, you want to be able to keep everybody's energy up. You want to keep the audience's interest up, and not just have it be round after round of dice rolls, especially when there's a few whiff rounds, and this combat had a few whiff rounds.
Oh,
and
so many.
that made for both entertainment, in the sense that they just couldn't land that critical hit when they really needed it, but it didn't mean that the combat had to drag because of it, and so I appreciated that as well.
Yeah. I thought it went pretty quick, partly because of players being ready for their turns, and knowing their characters reasonably well by this point. I think, sometimes at a home game, the distractions are there, and it's hard to maintain that pace. But these players are great. I really enjoyed running them through that, and there's some tactical choices they made that were great, and some creative choices they made that really, man, there were some things I really wanted to happen in that combat that did not happen.
What hopefully the audience will enjoy is that not only did we, because we're using Roll20 and we have the dice roll up, and that the audience can see both the rolls as the players make them, they can see the spell and or action and or special ability descriptions as they come up. So we're sharing those purposefully so that everybody can read it and see it in real time. But there was even some environmental factors where positioning and a bit of a chase sequence, and you're up on a second story, and who's at danger of perhaps falling. There was some great additional pieces. There was lots of athletic checks and skill checks against static numbers, where it was like not just a combat against armor class, but using your abilities, using your body or your physical fitness to try and affect your opponent, trip attempts and so forth. And that all was really, really great as well.
It was. Everyone rose to the challenge, and everyone was having fun, I think.
So having fun, no deaths. The NPCs weren't interested in dying, and neither were the player characters. But you were just talking a moment ago about lethality and about the risk of lethality is scaling up now as we head into Prelude 3, which will be another perhaps modest time jump, but also a level jump in terms of the player characters. We're going to take them to level 8, and that unlocks a whole new series of abilities, but a whole bunch of dangers as well.
Yeah. So I absolutely the lethality issue is one where the Pathfinder has a modern approach to RPGs with respect to death, and that the old school you're dead at 0 hit points was replaced in third edition with, well, you can go down to your negative con, and now in most modern systems, being under is something you can recover from, and you get the dying condition, and then you get the wounded condition in Pathfinder. If you go into negative hit points over and over again, it starts to wear you down. Um, but it's a good mechanic in terms of you don't want people to be investing a lot of time in generating a character and to have them be so fragile that they're gone in an instant. The days of 0 hit points and you're dead were not a lot of fun for people who had invested a lot of time in generating a character, running it through, and it can happen so easily. But still, you can end up with a total party kill if everyone's knocked down. And everyone in this fight, I think, was around 15 hit points at one point or another. There was some healing used to bring them back up, but it was dangerous, and it didn't have to be quite that dangerous. I think what I what I cautiously told the players at the end, and I think they took it well, was when we get into the adventure path, they are written with a certain amount of ruthlessness. We've both seen adventure path materials where we're like, this, we narrowly got through this, and some groups would not have, and that's just the reality. Um, and so I did say, there was, you guys are fine. This was good, but you could have focused on taking one opponent out. You could have been a little more tactical, and that's fine for this session. But when we get into the AP, your players should progress to the point. Player characters should progress to the point where they recognize some of those tactical elements, and so evolving to that point should be your objective in Prelude 3. And they absolutely took that to heart in the sense that, they started a conversation where they were saying,
Mm-hmm.
we would be starting to realize that non-lethal damage is perhaps not appropriate. The stakes are too high. We don't want to lose friends. And so I thought that conversation was great. I was worried about bringing it up with them in terms of the GM making tactical suggestions.
Yes.
I have to be really careful about that, but I don't know. You'll have to tell me. Did I pull it off?
You did, and but I wanted to talk about that because I think it makes for a good discussion on 2 points. One, let's have a quick discussion about sort of the ethical and sort of etiquette piece of it as a game runner, whether it's at your home table or in an online AP setting or
Yeah.
whatever else it is, about having those kind of conversations afterwards, about pulling back the curtain a bit and say, okay, let's talk as players to players, and about the how we ensure that you continue to enjoy this time that you're spending. And then we can talk about it from a bit of a story standpoint as well, because the way the players reacted to that conversation and took it to heart and started to rationalize how their player characters would react and how they would change their tactics and maybe not be quite so happy-go-lucky or quite so casual about the decisions they're making up to this point, because their environment around them is changing. They are earning enemies. They are creating a bit of chaos, and they are going to get a bit of a target on their back, just by virtue of the fact that when you defeat somebody and their entire influence doesn't disappear overnight, that could come back to haunt you later on, and you've got to be prepared for that. The player characters would know to be prepared for that, hopefully, but it's a joint decision. The players need to be prepared as well, and make decisions with a little bit of metagaming in the sense that, okay, this could get rough next time, so I should make sure that I change up a few things. But let's talk for a second about the etiquette and the sort of the courtesy piece of it, and the ethical piece of it, as a not to give away all the secrets and to not make it too easy. But how did you feel about that? And when you say sometimes you don't like to necessarily warn the players, you want them to learn as well. How much of it is a game? How much of it is an object lesson? And where do you see that line being drawn?
I think it's you build trust with your player group, and it hasn't taken us long, I think, to get to know these players, and that they've got the chops to be able to do improvisational work. They've got the chops to be able to do tactical stuff. and they're fully into the role play and the character development. There's a lot there in terms of the player resources, and so I totally threw the AP under the bus by basically saying the AP is going to be really lethal, and it is. It starts with a really dangerous. It does not gently introduce you to green gold. It throws you right into the mix.
Yes.
Um, so when it comes to the choice of whether to say something or not say something, there are ways that saying something can be perceived as an attack or a breach of trust by the game runner. And so I wanted to avoid that, but at the same time, it would be really disheartening in a home game or an actual play game to have a sudden tone shift of lethality without cautioning the players.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I wanted to avoid, is at the end of the preludes having a happy-go-lucky, we're role-playing these characters, we're having a lot of fun, oh, and we're all dead kind of moment. So I might, there might be occasions I think where I would regret saying something, but this was not one of them.
Yeah. No, I believe you pulled it off, and I completely agree with the decision to do so, because it was a very gentle reminder. It was a very common sense reminder, and I think they all recognized it based on how close some of their characters came to succumbing to the fight, and recognizing that just sort of their old tricks weren't gonna cut it anymore, and they needed to step up a little bit. And we even had a discussion with them as a group to say, because you're leveling up, and because we're using the wealth by level mechanic to represent the fact that you're not getting treasure and reward and so forth, because we're doing these time jumps and these level jumps to show your character's advancement over a period of time. The wealth by level mechanic fills in those gaps and represents the accumulation of resources in whatever form you would get them as time has gone on. Make sure you use those resources and gear up your character appropriately.
Yeah, that was your suggestion, and I valued it very much, because I would have said it if I'd thought of it, but I didn't think of it. But you're right. I think they will use the opportunity to get some emergency healing consumables and to get some empowerment and defensive capabilities that they wouldn't have had at fifth level. But I think your suggestion also was necessary and useful and welcomed by the players.
I noticed one of the reasons I thought about that too was because I noticed, and you may not have because you're in the thick of it, was that when Sky was taking their turns with their character Varen using the +1 striking rapier, Varen has done some optimization, or Sky has done some optimization with the character and has a bunch of the bonuses set up on the sheet so they're all ready to go. And Varen was doing significant damage with the rapier. I was watching Gwen's reaction as the player, and Gwen was like, wow, holy, how much? Where's those bonuses? And so I think for Gwen, that was a good reminder that to do a little bit of the homework, because it made a huge difference when they were connecting, that they were closing the gap between their hit point deficiency and how much the mobs or the bandit gang or the NPC was still standing, and how much more damage they could take. So I'm hoping that's where we're going. And we already know Steven is big into the tactical, and he's already hitting up Lex's player Banda for some magical tattoos to boost Toad's proficiency in combat and just general survivability. It's going to be very, very cool, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with level 8.
Yeah, me too. It'll be fun, and even the Prelude 3, I think at this point they are absolutely motivated to deal with a couple of personages in green gold, and that's where I'm planning on going with Prelude 3. But they're not pushovers. And I've been, looking at the challenge ratings of what, it was a CR7 bandit gang, and there were 2 of them, 3 if they decided to fight a third in the back alley, and then the leader was even higher CR than that, but not motivated to take damage personally.
And he wasn't expecting a knockdown drag out fight in sort of his own backyard, right? So from a story standpoint, it's reasonable that he made the decision he did tactically near the end of the fight. But it was good because it served the story, but also ensured that mechanically it wasn't all hope is lost, and that it's this moment or never again, right?
Yeah, that's right. I like that. But yeah, what I'm getting at is they're going to be up against some over leveled challenges. Like in the preludes, I'm only doing really one fight per
Yeah.
session, if that.
Yes.
Not quite per prelude, really, because there's some
Yes.
role play in one, and then a combat. The combat in the next prelude should be even more interesting. There'll be spellcasters in the mix and some fun there.
Absolutely.
Um, we'll see.
So, assuming that we follow the same model or the same schedule, or this Prelude 3 will be in 2 parts, that's not a lot of time left before the start of the AP at that point.
Right.
Do you have any goals with regards to the? We think we've talked about setting them up with their new residence and making sure they get a bit of using some of the downtime activities to show that and kind of reflect on that, which also again deepens their connection to the city, which we talked about was so important for a better buy-in for the start of the Adventure Path series. But is there anything with just a couple of Prelude episodes left? Is there anything that's not just related to the tactical side of it, but that's an important piece that you want to make sure you're getting out and getting ready for them?
I want them to have foes and friends in green gold, and I think that's already been accomplished. So no, nothing that I've thought of. Prelude 3 is unfinished, so I generally don't have time to prepare them way in advance, and I'm sort of filling in the gaps now, but I have it sketched out. I think one of the JDR wants to get involved in a local tavern ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Toad has objectives with respect to his background, and of course, Briala's mother is still a mystery. That I think some of those things may be best resolved before the adventure path, which is going to consume all with much higher stakes.
Sure.
So I'm trying to figure. We don't have time to do all of the players' backstory items in one prelude when we've got other things going on. But yeah, I am toying with the idea of whether I can pick one or two for people who haven't yet had a limelight moment,
Mm-hmm.
and try to give them that moment to have a realization or have a character development moment or find something out. Brielle is the easiest.
That sounds really good. And to your point, right? It's as it goes on, as the story goes on, or as your campaign goes on, and even around the home table, giving the players each their moment or opportunity when it comes along. And good tables, I mean, good is a broad descriptor, but considerate tables will be patient, and everybody will recognize that their time will come, and that especially if they've got good trust of their GM, especially if their game runner is a little bit of experience and understands that it's okay to not get all of that nailed down at one time, and to allow different sort of major moments to happen in due time when it comes up. And sometimes the players give you those cues because they will pursue that a little bit, or use a specific scene or a specific moment in the adventure to bring it up again, or to reference their past, and talk about the things that are important to them that way. And we've seen that at our home table many times. And there's been some real organic moments where nobody was rushing to solve that mystery of their past, or to locate that person, or to have that question answered. But then just the right moment presented itself, and it was able to come up. It was really rewarding for that, and I'm looking forward to those moments in this series as well.
Yeah, me too. The neat thing about this hobby is that it gives you, it scratches a lot of itches for tactical play, for storytelling, for character advancement, even for just the Monty Hall of look at all the treasure I've collected, that collection urge. There's a lot in it, and I've not had any treasure or loot. I've let the players define for themselves until we get to the adventure path. I've not explored every aspect of the game with these people, but it'll all come in time. I'm pretty excited about it.
I think what's interesting about the preludes is that we are bypassing that entire sort of item reward mechanic, which is a key part of fantasy role playing since the beginning of time, essentially. But in my mind, the game has not suffered for it. The players have certainly not been wanting. And have not focused on the fact that they really want to acquire certain things, and I think that their development of their characters will make the items they start to receive as the formal adventure path begins they'll appreciate that a lot more because they've already developed their character without the attachment to those specific key items that just really fill a hole or really give them a great boost that they weren't expecting. They'll already have a bit of satisfaction out of the character they built so far. It'll just be more like a really nice compliment rather than a must-have.
Yeah, and I might boost up what they get a little bit in the adventure path just because stuff is fun.
That's right. Real quick then, for some maybe more inexperienced game runners or people that are just starting out to running some of their own games, what's a philosophy you take with that? How do you determine in terms of using that phrase Monty Hall, which was goes way back for us in gaming lexicon as a term of or a type of campaign, which was very treasure rich and item rich. But how do you balance that in your mind, and what's a good way for a newer game runner to? I think the instinct sometimes is to don't give them too much too quickly, but we've sometimes had that opposite philosophy, and we've been very generous with rewards at our home table, but by no means did it make the encounters less challenging or the characters less interesting to be chasing their goals.
I think part of the philosophy of Pathfinder Second Edition is game balance, and so they have definitely de-emphasized magic items in certain ways. There's still a big part of the game, but in terms compared to Pathfinder First Edition, huge difference. For me, I think it again comes down to trust at the table. We have in this group and in our home group players who are going to be okay with either self-limiting or having disparate magic items for temporarily while things are discovered and sorted out, and so having mature players who have where jealousies don't arise, and it gives you the opportunity as a GM to really excite the players with something cool. And I remember early days, the first time I found a bag of holding. It doesn't affect you in combat at all, but just suddenly the pain of inventory management was easier.
Yes.
And like, this is really cool. I had not known about the item before I was handed one and was 16 years old and running a D&D game. And then having the first time someone has a +5 item that does a Holy Avenger or something cool like that, like there's a real visceral moment where I've accomplished something great by finding something great, and it really affects our prospects and our reputation and all that as characters. That's a neat feeling. It's got that evocative, harkens back to the Lord of the Ring when they find the sting or the One Ring or the mithril chain shirt. There are items in there that tell part of the story. So a long-winded way of saying, I think being generous with items, either because they're a little over-leveled or because there's a little bit more than you might expect, is better than being stingy with items, because it does tell part of the story, and it's part of the character's exceptionalism if they have neat stuff that not everyone has.
As a pair of Gen X gamers, I can remember in my high school games where we would run through, say, some of the printed adventures, or just even roll for magic items off the magic item table randomly, but we didn't have the presence of mind to customize those items, and so you could get a +3 spear that's +6 against devils or whatever it would be, but your character's not proficient with a spear, doesn't fight with a spear, no one else wants to use a spear, and it would literally go in the bag of holding, or it would go just in the slush pile for selling for later and such, right? And not having the presence to think, okay, well, it doesn't have to be a spear, make it a +3 whatever to match what your players are carrying for that. And I know that sometimes for inexperienced game runners for the first time, if you're running those adventure paths and they're incredibly rich and they give you a lot of cool stuff, it is okay to customize, and it's necessary to customize those items to make sure that they're actually going to match what the players have invested in. Especially in our table right now, we've got Mr. Parr playing JD Orr, who's a monk who fights unarmed. And so magic armor and magic weapons are not going to be attractive to that character or something that's going to help them in what they do day to day. So it requires a bit of creative thinking in terms of like, okay, from time to time, there needs to be something that's really going to be helpful for the monk.
I still might give him the spear +3, +6 against devils.
As well you should. Exactly. All right. Prelude 2 Part 2 in the books now. 4 preludes down, 2 to go before we start the path. It's getting really good now. The players are warmed up. The characters are starting to develop some of their key pieces. Some of the dialogue choices and some of the reactions that they have with some of the NPCs, as you said, building friendships and building animosities in the city as they go. The personalities are really starting to shine, and I quite like some of the one-liners tonight that they didn't shy away from showing their personality.
No, and you know what? It was probably going to be a fight no matter what, but they didn't shy away from that either. No, they're great players. I really enjoyed having them at the table, virtual or otherwise. But yeah, they've got the chops.
Last thing I'll close with was that we've talked a couple of after the war sessions back about the how much the weekly sessions can mean, how much you can sometimes be super looking forward to them. Sometimes it's like it's just one more social commitment weighing on a busy week already. You and I've talked. We've both had some pretty busy weeks this past weeks. Lots of going on in our work lives, and just in terms of, and we just made some pretty significant travel arrangements and travel changes for our home group and what we're going to be doing this summer in terms of our recreation. But this week especially, I was actually quite looking forward to this session because I needed that to focus on. I need okay, no matter how much other stuff I'm trying to do at the same time, I'm doing prep for the next Comic-Con that I'm going to, and all the stuff I'm doing with that didn't matter. I'm like, okay, the Monday night's coming, and I'm really looking forward to this week because I was looking forward to seeing everybody and looking forward to just playing.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, a rough week in every regard, but this is great.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for taking a bit of extra time to spend with us after the war. Again, this series runs every week after the session that you just watched and was aired on the Dungeon Scrawlers channel. We look forward to breaking these episodes down and sharing them with you, sharing our thoughts, and maybe in the future we'll even get to answer some of your questions as well.
Can I add something before you conclude?
Yeah, please.
One of the things, if anyone's watching this far in the after the war, it means they're enjoying the sessions and these episodes. This is my first foray into actual play. If you're enjoying this and other people who might enjoy it too, share it around. I'm not, this is something that this is our first collaborative effort, and I think it's only going to get better from here. Get involved in the Dungeon Scrawler chat as well. There's going to be I'm going to dip my toe in that once we start airing episodes. I think there's going to be some fun, and I'm sure that I'll learn a lot from what people have in terms of feedback, and that's appreciated too.
Good shows, good content, good games get shared, and they only get shared by word of mouth and by people sharing links. So absolutely, for us to build a bit of an audience with this, for this to find its way to more people like yourselves to watch. Again, if you can share, are willing to share, makes a huge difference, and we really do appreciate anybody who takes the time to say, "I really enjoyed this," and if you like actual plays, you should check this out. And to Seneschal's point, the Dungeon Scrawlers Discord, there should be a link hopefully in the description below. The Discord community is great. It is much broader than just Dungeons and Dragons, just Pathfinder, just actual plays. It's home to a whole bunch of writers and artists and creatives sharing all kinds of things going on in their lives and sharing all sorts of creative endeavors. I've really appreciated being part of that community, not just because of the fact that I'm helping make some actual plays for the channel, but there's just some really great people on there. And as we all know now more than ever, we really need some positive communities to spend time in to take away some of the noise that weighs us down for the rest of the day. So
interacting with real people. Who knew?
Exactly. Thank you, everybody, for spending time with us. One more time, my name is Jason Collins. I am a freelance comic book writer, tabletop role-playing game designer, actual play producer and streamer, and I am the producer and editor for the Spore War Actual Play series, Pathfinder 2nd Edition, here on Dungeon Scrawlers. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, and you can find me, of course, on my link tree at digital_Collins. It'll have links to all of these shows, my previous APs that I've run, and I need to put a link to the Dungeon Scrawlers Discord on there. That's what I need to do next. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
You can't find me anywhere.